What's up guys, Andrew Peche here. Day to night has long been a technique used in Hollywood because they want to have a nighttime look, yet they want to have all the advantages of shooting in the daytime. As real estate photographers, we want that same thing. We want to get that dramatic nighttime shot, but we don't want to have to go to every house at night, and it limits our opportunities, right? So today is about how to get a nighttime shot during the day. So let's jump on in there and take a look.
So I thought we'd start off looking at a few photos of Hollywood day for night. And as you can see in this example here, they've shot this during the day and yet they've turned it into a nighttime shot and they make it sort of this bluish look, which is really popular in Hollywood. They do these day for nights and they get kind of that bluish tinge on there. Now the thing is, we're not really going for this look, right? We're going for a lot warmer look, okay? So keep that in mind. Another thing you'll notice in the Hollywood examples is they don't do day for night a lot of times in city or when there's a lot of buildings like this. When I see it a lot is when they're in like the desert or when they're in a forest. And the reason they're doing that is it's very hard to light up all these windows, okay? And it's very hard to make it look realistic. Like they've probably had to process this sign in a certain way to get this to look somewhat realistic. So this is going to be our problem too, and this is what we're going to take care of today, all right? So let's jump into Photoshop. All right, we're here in Adobe Bridge, about ready to get into Photoshop. And as you'll notice what I did here, the first thing I did is I grabbed some brackets. And make sure you get quite a dark one because that is going to be kind of your base layer, okay? You really want this dark look like to be kind of your starting point, okay? And so I got a set of brackets. I'll probably never use these brighter ones, but just to get a range of, kind of planning my photo out there. And as I look at this, generally this darker image right here is kind of the area I'm going to want to be. And one of the things you'll notice is to make a really convincing day for night, I would say that you're going to want some clouds in the sky. It doesn't so much matter that there's clouds in the sky, but the fact that there's no hard sunlight hitting these things and creating shadows is a big help for us, okay? If you see the sun pop behind a cloud, I mean, you literally just need this one frame. And the other frames, I think you're going to understand this more at the end of the lesson, but at the other frames, you don't need the sun to even be behind a cloud. So you just got to get that one frame with the sun behind a cloud, and then if it happens to pop out when you're getting your lighting frames on the inside later on, that's okay. So just keep in mind, ideal conditions are cloudy. I'd say the technique is going to be less convincing the more hard shadows from the sun you have, okay? So it's just something you're going to have to play with. I'm not going to go through all the ins and outs today, but we're going to go through how to do this, okay? And if you live somewhere like, say, Portland, Oregon, you're going to have lighting like this almost every day, right? So this is great. So we're going to start here. This is, again, our base image. So we're going to go ahead and open that up, get in there, and I am just going to do some standard things on this. Let's see, just to get a sharpening and all that. And I'm going to go ahead, and this was a White House, so we're a little lucky here, but I'm just going to start off by making that white, okay? So I have kind of a starting point, all right? And in general, I'm going to adjust the house right now to where I'm going to want it to be. I'm not looking at much else, just the house. I'm not looking at the sky. I'm not looking at anything, okay? And I actually feel like it could be a little bit brighter than we had there. Somewhere in there, okay? And I think dodging and burning is going to be a big kind of technique we're going to use in here. So that's going to be more the selling point that we're going to do later on. But right now, we just want to get in a general ballpark. Does that look like night? And, if you look like down here, it does kind of look like night. It looks pretty dark, okay? So it's a little bit neutral to me. So you're going to want to come up here to your, white balance and go ahead and warm it up quite a bit. All right? This is what we were talking about before about, we're not going for that filmic look where they get really cool day for nights. We're not going for that. They're kind of like simulating like a moonlight look to sell people on it, but we're not doing that, right? We want to make something really kind of that's right supposedly just at sunset where there's those reds and stuff in the sky. So we're going to want to go quite warm here, all right? So I'll just put a sampler on there and check it out. And we are quite warm. I think I'd even like to go more than that in this example. So I'm getting up there to about 6,400 on the Kelvin scale. And I'll even bump this up a little too. And I might bring this down just a tad because it's getting a little warm, I feel. And don't forget, we can make micro adjustments to this warmth in Photoshop too, so it's not too big a deal. So you might want to play with your blacks a little. You know, you might want to take them down a little, right? Because it should be really dark in those areas, okay? Just get it to where you feel, this is an important step, just get it to where you feel it's looking like as much as like night as it can, okay? So I'm happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and pull that into Photoshop and we'll see the next step. And as you can see at this point, I'm starting to light on the inside. But what I've done is I've bumped my aperture all the way up to f22. Okay, over here I was at f8 and at my sync speed of 1/200. And over here I'm going to be at f22 because I can't, there's no other metric that I can change. I can't change my shutter speed. I'm already at my max sync speed. I can't go any lower on my ISO. I'm already at my base ISO. So the one thing I can play with to make this image look about how I want the final image, which is, you know, more or less like our base image over here, the only metric I can play with is my aperture, okay? So I went all the way to f22. So you guys are just going to have to play with that, okay? And keep in mind at this point, it should be like a little bell ringing in your head. You're at f22, ISO 200, and you're going to need a lot of flash power here, okay? I had a 600 watt light in here and I'm bouncing it. If you don't have quite that much power, a lot of times what you can do is go ahead and shoot the light straight at the subject. But I bounced it over here in this upper right hand corner and it's just kind of spreading through there. So let's go ahead and adjust this one in the raw editor. So as a starting point, we're going to go ahead and sync that up with our original base layer that we just edited. Okay, we're going to go ahead and sync that up just as a starting point. And it's not looking too great to me yet because it's not warm enough in there, okay? So again, you could have used a gel. I could have used a gel in there, but I think, you know, you don't need to. So I'm just going to bump this white balance up quite a bit, okay? So I'm already at 67 there, 72, and it's still not looking quite warm enough to me. So we're going to have to go quite a way. So I'm at 82. And one of the things you're going to have to watch out for, and again, unfortunately, a lot of these things will maybe only make sense when you see how this technique works. But we're going to go ahead and darken this a little because we're focusing in on this. We only want this area to be brighter, okay? This area in the window, okay? So we don't want to pull this in and have it be lighter than our other image, okay? And you'll see why that is in a second. All right, so we got that guy into Photoshop. Now we're going to go ahead and move it over to our base layer that we made earlier. And what we're going to do now is turn the blend mode of that layer to lighten, okay? And let's see how this does for us. And it looks like it did pretty good. See, we're just getting that window. So if I wouldn't have darkened this frame up here, it might have come through in other areas, which would have given us a little bit of a problem. But we're just going to mask that now. And we'll come in here and we'll go ahead and just brush that window in, okay? And this is what even Hollywood is going to have a hard time doing, okay? And we have the power to do this, okay? If a Hollywood set was going to do a day for night shoot like in a cityscape, they would have a really hard time overpowering the sun with their lights like we're doing right here, okay? They'd have a really, really hard time, okay? And that's why you see most of the day for nights like in the desert and stuff where there's not buildings that have lights on the inside, all right? But we're able to do it quite easily right here with this technique, okay, using this light and blend mode. And that looks pretty good. A lot of times you can just, it's a little bit bright over here, and that's not too big a deal, but you could just mask that out a tad, okay? So we're going to go ahead and do that for all the windows, all right? And I hope you can follow that, but I'm going to run through this quickly. Alright, so here we are, and we have all the windows lit up at this point, and we might do a little bit of simulation later, like a little bit of light, simulating light to pouring out of here, but right now we're just going to focus on getting some accent lighting on the outside. Okay, so we'll get back into Bridge, and what I did in the field here was I just got some lighting frames, okay, and I'm going to go ahead and sync this up with our original frame because I think that's a good starting point. Okay, so remember we had our base layer here. I'm going to go ahead and sync this flash frame, the one I'm flashing on the outside, to that base layer. I think that's a good place to sort of start, and we'll see how that looks. It's a little bit too bright, and what we're doing here, we're just kind of, it's almost like you could say we're kind of simulating that light painting technique just to maybe sell it a little more. Okay, and I might want to warm this up even more. That's light, that should be daylight balanced light, so you might want to warm that up. And we're just going to softly brush this in. Okay, this is just sort of, we're at the point now where we have a great base and a great starting point. We're just trying to sell it now. Okay, so I'll go ahead and mask that, and this will give it that kind of a nice little that light painted look, you know, and it's kind of selling the fact that it's at night. I feel a little bit better. All right, so we'll do that for a couple more frames. And you know, you of course can play with this yourself. I lit around here and around here, so I'll just do that, the same process, a couple more times. Alright, so we're at this point now. We want to maybe simulate a little bit of light just sort of spilling out. So we'll go ahead and grab a dodge, you know, a dodge layer here, where we're just going to be lightening, and we'll go ahead and just try and simulate some light spilling out of there. Okay, and maybe in these areas too. And guys, this light over here, I could have taken care of, made that light up in the field, but I didn't do that because, you know, I'm spending 5 minutes on these, and you know, so I don't do stuff like that. But you know, just keep in mind you could do that. You would just have to jam like your light in there and kind of mask yourself out. Okay, I'm not gonna go over that right now, but so we're just sort of trying to simulate some light spilling out of here. We're doing dodging right now, but later on we're gonna do burning. And what I do is grab a color layer and grab sort of maybe a really nice warm color. Let's just make one up, something like that, and we're just going to really gently kind of brush that into those areas we just made. Okay, Alright, and the last thing you got to do is take care of the sky, of course, and I'm going to go ahead and let you guys kind of figure that out, but we'll do a little fast motion here.
Alright, that's it for this time, guys. Thanks for watching, and don't forget, bracket, get those windows lit up, and you're really almost there in terms of creating a really authentic nighttime image, that really dramatic image you want to make during the daytime, okay? And just, you got to do a little couple things after that, like adding a sky, maybe some dodging and burning, maybe a little lighting on the outside, on the exterior too, to really help sell it, but that's it. So I hope to see you guys next time, and thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.